Did you hear the news that Canada is giving permanent residencies to caregivers? And of course, they also allow dependents to go with them. I know UK is not favorable country for people who wants to move here with their dependents as a carer. So you should not be sticking your head just for UK. You should start exploring other countries like Canada. So today I have invited special guest Shafoli from TDOT Immigration, and where we are going to discuss the details about this announcement. If you're interested in this topic, make sure you keep watching the video till the end. However, before we start, a quick introduction about myself. My name is Sarika and welcome to Your Knowledge Buddy. If you want to study abroad, including Canada and all these listed countries, my team can help you free of cost. What do you have to do? Fill the form which is provided in my video description and pinned comment. So let's get started with today's video. Hi Shafoli, welcome once again to Your Knowledge Buddy. And if you don't mind, can you please introduce yourself to my audience?
Thank you so much, Sarika, for having me back on your channel. My name is Shafoli and I'm a licensed Canadian immigration consultant. The name of my firm is TDOT Immigration, and I'm based in Toronto, Ontario in Canada. When I say I'm a licensed Canadian immigration consultant, it means I'm licensed by the government of Canada to assist people to immigrate to Canada, to give them guidance and to help them process their applications and represent them on their immigration applications.
So my regular audience, I think they already know that. And that's why I have brought you back again to share the latest news from Canada. So I heard there's amazing news for caregivers like carer and senior carers who wants to move abroad, especially to Canada. So can you talk about it? What is the breaking news from Canada regarding the carer?
Yes, absolutely. We were actually waiting for this news for a very long time. Caregiver program has been a really popular program in Canada for years and years and years. I think even before my existence. Canadians have always needed people from outside Canada to come here and then help them with their children or elderly people in their households, or even in general elderly people. So this has been a really, really popular program. And over the years, if I talk in very, very raw words, apparently Canadian immigration has not been able to figure out a perfect program yet. So what they do is every couple of years, they launch a pilot program. When immigration launches a pilot program, it means it's a trial. They want to try. They want to see if it's really it's beneficial for them. And when I say beneficial, apart from just focusing on the employers, they also focus on caregivers. They want to make sure that there's as limited abuse to those people as possible. Because obviously, when you come to Canada and you're restricted to only work for one employer, then obviously, they are subject to abuse as well sometimes. So in order to reduce that, the government has changed several programs over the years. We have one program currently in place, which was a pilot as well. But obviously, it seems like that was also not the perfect program. So the government has decided to change that as well. They're launching another new program. Now, we still don't know the exact launch date, but the current pilot program is set to expire on June 17th, 2024. There are several significant changes in the new program, and I can go over that as well with you. But yeah, it's a great news for those caregivers who've been wanting to come to Canada and work as caregivers.
Yeah, so the headline says, now caregivers, when they come, they can get a permanent residency. Were they not given that before? And are they planning to give them now? Can you just explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so that's a really big difference between the current program and the programs for caregivers that we've had in the past and the new program. So anything that I'm telling you right now is based on the limited information that we have received as of yet. There will be more details available when there will be an official launch of this program. What the government is doing is that initially, the current program, what happens is that if a person has a job offer from an employer in Canada, they apply for their permanent residence. But what IRCC does is they don't grant them permanent residence right off the bat. They assess them for their eligibility. If they meet all the requirements and if they have no criminal, like risks or no medical issues, they're not inadmissible, they're granted a work permit. It's a occupation-based work permit. If the applicants come to Canada, they work for those employers, for that particular employer or any other employer, because it's an occupation-based. Current requirement is 12 months. And then after 12 months, they send their experience documents to IRCC and they're granted permanent residence. But what happens sometimes is that these caregivers are subject to abuse. So what happens is they have the job offer, but then the employer never hires them. Or sometimes employers hire them, but then they fire them because they don't get along or they're not providing the service that they're expecting or whatever it is. What happens is sometimes some of these caregivers are unable to complete their full experience. As a result, they can sometimes never apply for permanent residence and they struggle because their work permit is only for a limited period. And if they're not going to work, they can't extend their work permit, they can't apply for permanent residence, they can't work in any other occupation. So it becomes restrictive. So what IRCC is doing now is that they're saying that, okay, we're going to take off that experience requirement. If you have a job offer and you meet all the other requirements, you directly come to Canada and you apply for, like, you get granted permanent residence. Now, if there are any conditions to it, we don't know yet. Like, are they going to ask for specific amount of experience from back home? We don't know yet, because the current program doesn't require experience from outside. It only requires education, post-secondary education, and relevant education or experience, right? But the mandatory requirement was Canadian experience of 12 months in that field. But they're taking that off. So we don't know if they're going to ask for a specific amount of experience from outside Canada.
Good. This is interesting. So if I have to ask you, people sitting in India who wants to move to Canada as a carer or senior carer, what do they have to do? Where do they apply for the jobs?
So basically, what IRCC is doing right now is, up until the current program, only individual employers could offer a job to a caregiver. So for example, me, I have young kids. If I want a caregiver from outside Canada for my children, then I, as an individual, can give a job offer and get that person here. That is what the current program says. Organizations were not allowed to give job offers under this program. When I say organizations, means, recruitment agencies or providers of, these kind of services to individuals. Again, not long-term care homes, but individuals. So let's say I am registered with an agency, and I tell the agency that I have elderly parents and at home who need support, or they have disability, partial disability or full disability, then I can go through that agency, and that agency can bring in a caregiver for me. That was not allowed until this program. But it seems that in the new program, individuals plus these organizations will also be able to bring people, but only for people who need care if they have a disability.
Okay.
For childcare, we still need individual employers. Me as a mother or a parent can sponsor somebody to come and give care to my children at my home or at their home. But again, that's not clear as well in this program. The current program allows them to give care from their home or my home. But that changes we don't know if that changes going forward. So that's the big difference. So what do? These people, they have to find an employer who can give them a job offer, and then they can apply for this program when it opens. Also, there is very limited number of applications that are accepted every year. We don't know what the next year limit will be. Usually with childcare, that program, literally the day it opens, it closes the same day within like 3 hours. For the elderly care, the program usually remains open for longer, because for elderly care, you usually need people with a nursing background, because that's how they can support them. So that program remains open longer, but childcare program closes the same day, literally 3 hours. And it's first come, first serve.
Okay.
But again, we don't know what's going to happen with the new program when they launch this one.
While you were talking, I had so many questions already. Let me see if I'm able to recall. So first thing, if the carers are allowed to come or will be allowed to come now and given a permanent residency, can they bring their dependents as well?
100%. They were always allowed to bring their dependent, even in the previous program.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's
and the spouse, now that they will get permanent residence directly, so that means everybody is going to come as permanent residents. But earlier, when they were getting work permits, the family would also get work permits.
Are there any licensed employers who you think will be working with those immigrants, like say from India, Pakistan, or Nigeria, wherever they are, to bring the right people? I mean, for example, I'm comparing this with UK. UK is completely different to what you were explaining in Canada. If I want a carer here for my parents, I cannot bring. I don't have license, and it's not allowed. Only the licensed employers. And also there are massive changes happening in the UK. Only those care homes which are licensed by the UK government can only bring those carers now. So I'm just thinking from my audience perspective who are watching this video, and if they are sitting in India, they still want to be a carer or senior carer, and they want to move to Canada. What should be their first step? Where should they go? Any links, websites, or anyone who can help them?
So no, apparently, like I said, organizations up until now were not even permitted to bring people under this program specifically. Now, there were other programs. You must have heard the name LMIA. We've discussed that in the past videos as well. They were allowed to bring people on that program earlier for a work permit only. But then government, even during COVID, changed that because of the abuse involved with it. So people can't be brought up from outside Canada on work permits either. LMI supported work permits and for this particular occupation. Now, if they're working as nurse aides, which is in long-term care homes, then that's different. But as home support workers or home caregivers, like child caregivers, they're not allowed to come on LMI supported work permits. They can only go through this program. So organizations were not eligible for it. And there are no licensed individuals as well. What I need to do is, like, if I'm sponsoring somebody as an individual, I need to register myself as an employer with the Canada Revenue Agency. They will give me a payroll number. Government of Canada will do the application and verify me as a legit employer through my CRA. So they'll make sure that my income is enough, that I'll be able to pay the wages. Now, a lot of people ask me this question, and I'm going to ask, because I know your audience is also going to ask, who is eligible to sponsor? Income is the criteria. I should be able to pay the wages to that person who's going to come to Canada for the full duration of their employment. And how do we assess that? So I need to have, so government has some set income levels depending on the family size. So if I'm a family size of, let's say, 3 people, then based on my income for 3 people that the government has set, plus the annual wages of that particular caregiver, the total of both should be less than my actual household income.
Right.
And when I say household income, it could also be 2 partners. So if me and my husband together, our income will be calculated to assess our eligibility, if we can sponsor somebody or not. If our income is even $1 less than what is required to hire that, we're not eligible to sponsor.
Okay, understood. So say you are eligible and tomorrow you have to hire someone. After you get this license, what do you do? Where do you hire?
I don't need a license. I just need a payroll number.
Okay.
And then I give my, there's an employer form. Again, we don't know what documentation will be required going forward. But as of right now, there's a form that the employer has to fill out, giving description about themselves, the number of children in the household, or who has to be taken care of, and what kind of accommodation will be provided, what will be the hours of work, how many breaks, what will be the wages, and all of that. And we give that. And then the applicant rests all of their information, their forms, their documents, and they submit that application. If the officer, while processing the application, needs additional income documents, then they reach out to the applicant saying, can you reach out to your employer and provide us with these documents?
Understood. What's the next step? Again, I'm thinking from my audience perspective, Shafoli. Understand that's a requirement from the employer. From my audience who wants to move from India or anywhere to Canada, what does this news mean to me? For example, I was very excited about, carers are given a permanent residency. From what you're talking, I feel like, okay, it's a good news, but what does it mean for me or my audience?
2 things, okay? I think your question particularly means, how are these people going to find those employers? Is that what you're asking?
Correct.
So 90% of the time, this is through contacts, reference, right? It's impossible to find an individual somebody. So people have friends here, relatives here, uncles and aunts here. They can also, there are recruitment agencies who sign up individuals like myself who are looking for those caregivers. So I will have a client come to me as an immigration professional. Oh, do you know somebody who can help me? Or there are actual recruitment agencies who sign up people like myself who offer those services. Employer will still remain myself. The program will be done through me, but there are recruitment agencies who will help those people to connect.
I think that thing is very clear to me. What is not clear, I understand your employer and our recruitment agencies will be helping. So who are those recruitment agencies? Where can my audience find them? That is the big
There's no such information online available. There are no licensed people for that. The government doesn't support any specific people. There's nothing like that. It's all individual search. People have to go through their references. And Sarika, you know what? I would also not hire somebody without doing proper reference checks or making sure that that person is the right person for me. After all, I will be handing over the care of my young children to them, right? So it will always come through reference. It will come through people that know somebody. It's never going to be unknown people. It's always going to be true. I'll give you an example. I have some clients who've hired caregivers, and then once those people have obtained their PR, but the children are still young, they will say, okay, my friend can do the job. Can you hire my friend? And then the parent starts the sponsorship process for the friend.
I'm not quite impressed with how things are being done. So, I mean, it's only people with reference or right network get the job then. What about people who have no network or connection? Then it's not as great news as I thought so. Because UK, in fact, again, compared with UK, it's completely different. There are licensed recruitment agencies or care homes who can hire from anywhere, but only those licensed care homes they can.
That's why there's so much.
Doesn't matter where are you based. You can apply for the job. The only main change which happened in the UK is like you cannot bring your dependent, but someone without a dependent, they apply for the job. If they have the right profile and if you give the interview and of course you pass the interview, get a job offer, you can move. So you don't have to have any kind of network or connection. Those platforms are available. It's like proper job sites are there where people can apply. From what you are explaining, to be honest, it's not a very great news for my audience. They don't know if anybody in Canada, so they cannot take advantage of this, right?
But that's the reason why I initially said that the government has not been able to find the perfect program. And that's why every few years they have to change it. So it seems somebody in policy making needs to replicate the UK's caregiver program.
Not completely, but like you said, dependents are not allowed now. But here in Canada, you say dependents are allowed. So say someone with a strong network or connection in Canada, they can still bring their dependent, which is pretty good. You get a direct permanent residency, which is pretty good, which is not the case in the UK. In the UK, you have to stay on that skill visa for 5 years. Then only you can apply for permanent residency. However, you can change employer depending if the new employer still have the license and if they want to sponsor you. If you don't get a sponsorship, you need to be sponsored for 5 years. You can stick to one company or you can move to 100 companies, but everybody needs to sponsor you within that 5 years. And only once you stay on 5 years on that skill visa, then only you get your permanent residency. So you see, I'm comparing UK and Canada. And when I heard this news, I thought, oh my God, people who wanted to move to the UK with their dependents who are not allowed to come now, they can now move to Canada. However, let's see who can use this.
But if you ask my personal opinion, I personally feel that this is really not going to get rid of the abuse again. Abuse for caregivers, yes, maybe it will be taken care of. The applicants will not be abused anymore by the employers if that was happening. But I think the system in general will be abused because now people are going to take advantage of this program, even if they're not genuine caregivers or they're not going to actually work as caregivers in Canada. They'll use the program, come here, get their permanent residence and not do those jobs. So I think, again, this is not the ideal program.
So when do you think there will be more detailed information regarding it? Is there any kind of communication already?
See, my assumption is, and this is pure assumption, the program will open on January 1st, 2020. 5, that is when they open it every year because it's first come first serve at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm assuming they're going to launch the program sometime in fall so that people can start preparing the documentation, job offers and everything. They have announced the program before the expiration of the current, but the specifics should come sometime in fall, and this is my assumption.
Thank you, Shafoli. I think you have shared a lot about the latest information on carer and senior carers as well who want to move to Canada. But again, I think I'm a little disappointed, like I said, because I'm thinking from my audience perspective, for people who have no network or connection in Canada, I still think they are going to struggle to move to Canada. For people who got their own personal contacts or networks, I'm sure they will take advantage of it. So there's one side, yes, they will take advantage of it and they can also get a permanent residency. But on the other side, people who have no network or any kind of connections in Canada, they are going to massively lose on this opportunity, even though they are licensed carers or say nurses who want to move to Canada. So there's both sides. Yeah. But again,
there's also good news for people who are genuine and who really want to do this and come to Canada. They have reduced the language requirements and they've also reduced the education requirement for this program. Earlier, the education requirement was CLB 5, the Canadian language benchmark, and for education needed 1 year of post-secondary education. They've removed that to high school education and CLB 4. So,
but again, what I'm trying to say here, irrespective of say I'm qualified, overqualified. What if I don't have any network in Canada? I can never go there, even though I say I'm the best person, I have good experience and everything. I don't have any network or connection. I can never go. Then what is the point of having all those kind of requirements? Again, I'm trying to put a fight from my audience because I know when they are going to watch the video, I will get those comments, how can they apply? When I have posted something on my, I think, Instagram yesterday, people have already started questioning, okay, how do we apply? Where to start? Those are the questions that will come in people's mind. But
anyway, again, like I said, it's going to be individual employers or organizations who are helping. Yeah. And people have to do those searches themselves, contact individuals or recruitment agencies, but there's no license or nothing that the government supports or promotes.
Yeah. So if recruitment agencies do advertise for roles, then it's a good news. At least people who knows how to use internet or how to find those recruitment agencies, they can contact them. That is still fairly good enough. But I don't know how your recruitment agencies in Canada work, whether they will advertise for such roles or not. We don't know.
And it's all money business as well.
Yes, I heard in the UK, as you know, there were a lot of scams. People were selling this job offer for £20,000, which is like roughly 20 lakhs, and then bringing people. And I hear the same thing in Canada as well. Yeah. And yeah, so
They're selling these jobs.
yeah, so okay, but again, I'm no one to comment about Canada, and I don't know how things are going to benefit them or not benefit them. But okay, it's nice to have this information from you, and at least it's out to my audience. I'll see how it's going to benefit them. I'm going to do a research on the recruitment agencies in Canada myself, and I'm going to see if I find something. How do they do it today? Will those recruitment agencies keep doing that from, say, 1st of Jan as well? So if I find something, of course, I'm going to make more detailed information for my audience. But thank you very much, Shafoli, thank you for coming and recording this video.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.